Hello and welcome back to Paranormal and Podcast, located in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. That's P&L Podcast for short. I'm your host and founder, Jen Noseworthy. Thank you for tuning in to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans and 105.3 FM Gulf Coast. For tonight's special, we've got the Religion of Tarot on UPRN segment number 36. And I've got a special guest tonight waiting backstage from St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, who I'll bring on shortly. Now it's time to grab your favorite cold one, a few munchies, maybe some crystals and sage, and get ready for the spooky show tonight. Paranormal NL Podcast is sponsored by the Bog Team. It's a boots-on-the-ground Bog Team doing historical paranormal investigations in Newfoundland, Canada. PNL Podcast believes in supporting international paranormal networking and highlighting global paranormal people, places, and things. And follow PNL Podcast and the Bog Team on their Linktree Paranormal NL Podcast. Now let's get on with the show. Tonight I have on with me Jessica Williams-Newhook. Welcome back, Jessica.
Thank you, Jen. I'm happy to be back.
Yes, you were on previously. You were on, let's see, season 2, episode 51, when we did the solar eclipse. And then you were on again, season 2, 108.5, when we did a go live with a bonus at the Torbay History House and Museum. Mm-hmm. And then we did a couple evidence reveals, episode 117 and 145 with the Torbay History House and Museum. So, Jessica, tell us a little bit about yourself for folks who don't know who you are.
So I am a MA Master's Thesis writer. I wrote my Master's Thesis on the religion of tarot. So I took a look at in the academic world, the world I've lived in and vernacular religion, and also used models that were used to study Christian and what it meant to be religious and Christian religion to write my thesis on the religion of tarot. I'm also a tarot teacher, a tarot reader, as well as medium. So I have a few different hats I wear. I come from a long background of family that does mediumship, clairvoyance, runes, alien sightings, and aura readings. So we have, and a tea leaf reader. So I have a large family and have a variety of different backgrounds within my family. So I have a large experience, and I grew up with this stuff. So it wasn't such a horrible thing until I started scaring people in my teenage years.
Well, you're no stranger to the paranormal, right? I know some people, like you said, are afraid of it, but when you're used to it, you kind of embrace it and it's normal. But then when you meet people who are not used to it, we kind of scare them, right?
A little bit. And I have learned throughout the years that energy is energy. That's neither good nor bad. And it's the perceptions and the comfortability that we feel with energy as to whether or not we then label it good or bad. So you could have a energy coming in that could be very negative experience for you because you don't feel good. You have pricklies on your skin, or you feel really scared or intimidated, or you can have the opposite happen where they're very loving. So then, of course, we would then apply the labels accordingly. But energy is energy, and it's pretty easy. Like once you get to the root of energy and what it is, not much takes my socks off and scares the heck out of me. So
do you want to do like a little opening thing for us to get it going here tonight?
Sure, we'll do an opening circle. So I just have some sage on the go here.
Okay, I like my sage over here too. I got some white sage and I had some Palo Santo earlier.
Yeah, and just to honor those who, of the Aboriginal descent, I do try to buy my sage and search my sage from Indigenous people back from my home area, nice. Which is Calgary in the Treaty 7.
Alberta?
Yep, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and the Treaty 7 territory. So I do try to make sure that I honor their the sacredness. Also understanding that sacred burning of herbs and other sacred plants have been around for millennia with a variety of different religions as well. So it's not just the Indigenous people, but also other religions. So Now that we have this going, I'm just going to put the sage around and open a sacred circle and just bless the circle to the spirit and the energies that are around. I do invite you forward with positive messaging and messaging that we can move forward as individuals within a community as well as the human race as a whole. I wish for a peaceful opportunity within this sacred circle to be able to express the messages that need to be expressed this evening and know that there are no wrong answers.
Beautiful. Thank
Yes,
you.
moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Jessica, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the tarot? What drove you to write your thesis on tarot?
It's interesting. I really wanted to make an impact in the relation to the community that I'm part of, which is very New Age oriented. And when I was doing my research, I remember telling my professor that I wanted to have something really profound. And then I thought, well, what better way than to juxtapose the angst of Christianity against, the nastiness of New Age, and quickly found myself in a situation where that is actually not a common experience. I
So
mean,
your professor didn't know what to think.
well, my professor was kind of just like going, you know what, do your research and do your interviews and see what happens within the interviews. And when I did my interviews with the different tarot practitioners, nothing like that came up. Very rarely it did. There was one store owner that was facing the ridicule of a town in relation to the whole idea of Christianity, and it was evil. And so there were some issues there. But he was really the only one that was experiencing that type of negativity. So when I did all the research and everything, and I looked at it, and I remember like witnessing going to a Sikh temple or going to a um, for various Christian organizations, as well as I went to a Sikh temple, I went to a Jewish synagogue. Because I'm interested in different religions, I even did an Islamic mosque where I sat in and participated in their various things. And I started realizing that a lot of people experience a religious experience with tarot. And so that's when I brought in the ideas of Stark and Glock's dimensions of religiosity. So more than just the Sunday goer, like, oh, I'm going to go to church on Sundays. These are the people who have religion embraced in their everyday lives. And so I took a look at what the practitioners were saying. I read what they had said and what they had researched in a Christian context. And they're social scientists, so they interviewed thousands upon thousands of people to be able to create this framework, the dimensions of religion that I worked with, and did further research and discovered that there was people who did a comparison in Islam and Judaism and yoga and Hinduism, and so these dimensions have been looked at from a variety of perspective.
So it's definitely international, this religion of tarot, we say.
Well, I would say that the concept of what religion is international, and I would challenge the idea that religion is strictly a institutionalized ideology. And that's basically what my tarot of religion was about. It's like, you know what? We open sacred circles. We close sacred circles when we're doing readings. We put crystals when we store our Bibles, or we don't store our Bibles, but we store our tarot cards. There are some people who are very meticulous about what you can use. Can you use a cloth? They store crystals. There are people that have particular pens and books that they only have with particular decks. Then there's also the closing of sacred circles when using tarot. So not only do you open, you close, you create a sacred space for the practice to be able to take place.
I
And
kind
this
of store mine with some quartz. Is that what do you store yours with?
The ones that I use regularly for my readings with clients I have cotton claws that have the witch pagan symbols on them. So
Like
I
the
will.
one in the picture there, like that one?
That one is actually a casting cloth.
Okay.
And so I put out actually the cloth underneath it would be a cotton cloth. That's similar to what I would use to wrap my cards in, but a lot smaller. So it doesn't cover a table, it just covers the cards themselves. And when I set up my tables in any of these types of readings, I always set up a sacred space by tapping my copper dowsing rods in each corner and be able to invite in a safe environment for people to be able to be what they need to be and receive the messages that they need to receive.
And the right type of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want to invite in any weird energy. But do you ever get stuff that's not wanted, like elementals that just show up and say, "Hey, we're here,"
Um,
something that you didn't expect?
Not during a reading. My readings are very controlled. I have a lot of experience. So I work with energy. I will often explain to people, especially people who've never read with me before, that I have connections with that energy with my guides, and my guides will talk to your guides.
Okay.
So it kind of protects, it creates a protection around me. So a lot of times I won't get that thing, and then sometimes my guides will end up communicating with a past loved one. So the interesting thing is that every now and then mediumship does occur because I'll have then I get grant, of course, permission for the loved one to come forward and be able to provide the message that they need to provide, which is always an honoring experience, and it's always neat when that happens. So true mediums will recognize that they can't guarantee who will come forward, number one, and number two, can guarantee that anybody will come forward. So what happens is most of the time they're picking up on energies that you may have and impressions, and you can read that way for sure. But true mediumship is waiting for the spirit to come in, and it happens not as often as people would think. So.
Do you want to try to do something tonight?
Mediumship, I don't know because I can never guarantee the mediumship process coming forward. And I have this house pretty locked down in relation to spirit. Like I don't allow a lot of movement just because then I don't want any surprises.
True that. You don't want somebody waking you up at night just wanting to chit chat 3 in the
Yeah, I know,
morning.
because there's nothing worse than having to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because spirits decide, oh, I'm restless. You're
Hey, I want to talk. Wake up. So tell us about some of the decks that you use. I know I see a lot of different decks.
So you have on the screen there, there's a couple of crystal balls that I use for clear seeing and scrying purposes. But if you look there in the very front, the first deck there with the feathers on it, that's the Faulkner deck. It's a black and white picture deck.
Okay.
And that was created by Rihanna Faulkner in the UK. She doesn't produce them anymore, so they are kind of a collector's item. So luckily I have the deck that I use, and then I have one extra that I've stashed away for if that one ever dies on me. So the one next to it is the Witches deck. That's circa 1970s. And then the ones behind that are kind of show decks. You have the Thoth deck, the Marseille Tarot, and the Visconti Tarot. So those are historical decks that kind of it provides a little bit of historical context to the history of tarot.
Now, what do you say to the people like who buy decks just for fun? Like I was at a place and I saw this. I'll hold it up, but you probably know if you can see it or not. Kitty cat deck. Let me take this one off. And what do you say to the people who just go in and say, "Hey, this kind of talks to me because I love animals." So I said, "Let me try this. I haven't done tarot. I just kind of started just doing it, just for fun, just for family or friends or something like that." But what do you say to the folks who do that? Just go out and buy them and play with them. Is that something that you shouldn't do, or?
See, the thing is about tarot is that you have to use them. You have to get familiar with them and you have to use them. What I would say is that don't define anyone's personal learning process as being wrong or incorrect, because everybody's going to figure it out how they're going to figure it out. So you may have a deck like I have a lot of novelty decks. Like I have the Disney Villains deck. Okay. I don't read with that deck because it doesn't have the symbology that I'm used to, and I don't really like the energy with it. Unless There is somebody that walks in and my little voices go, hey, you need to use that deck. Then I'll pull it out and then I get a great reading from it. But for the most part, I will use the Faulkner Tarot or a version of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Okay.
Just because those are the systems I'm most familiar with. Now, keep in mind that there are systems within the tarot world. So you have your Thoth system. Okay, so that was done by the beast himself, Aleister Crowley, and the artwork was done by Leda Frida Harris. Then you have the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which was done by Arthur Waite and then drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith. And then you have the Marseille deck, which was the French deck that was the precursor to both of those decks. So I just went backwards in history. Most of our systems within the tarot world fall within those realms. So there either be like similar to the Thoth system or the Arthur Waite-Smith system or the Marseille system. So, and then you get into the novelty decks that kind of, they're a little bit out there. They kind of fall outside of those realms.
But like you said, when you pull one and you're trying to get used to reading them, like I pulled, let me see, I pulled this one. Does this mean anything to you? A cat in a box with an arrow?
Okay, so if you're first time reading tarot and you pull that card, it'd be like, okay, so what is your first impression of the box? Are you trapped or do you feel cozy?
Well, to me, it looks like there's a hungry cat because he's eating the box and there's cookies on top of it. And my cats have been constantly asking me for, I call them Scooby snacks. They're always asking for what do you call those Temptations cat mix snacks?
Right. So then, okay, so we're dealing with a hungry cat who is uncomfortable with his surroundings. So how does that fit for you?
Could be because I was burning sage and I got both of them angry and they see the arrow. They left the room. Yeah. That's how I interpret that one. But, there's always a little book that comes with it. And a lot of people say, throw out the book. Don't even go by the book, right? Because it goes by your feelings and what you sense.
Yeah, I'm not a book reader. So when I was first learning how to do this, I was told to throw out the books. And the main reason is because you lose sense of your intuition. We go back into the mundane world. So the idea is that you want to stay in the sacred. So you want to stay where your energy is going to be able to be connected. As soon as we go into black and white, am I getting it right?
Yes.
What is my letter grade? Oh, I got a 4.0. Oh, I got an 0.0. Like I failed this course. I passed this course.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just constantly going through the book, like trying to find it. And I was doing that. I can't find that card anywhere.
Right. And so that's why I'm like, so when you pulled up the card for me, when I looked at it, I felt that the cat was just kind of a little bit in a playful mood and was quite comfortable in the box and didn't really want to actually acknowledge where the arrow was pointing. Like it was almost like, no, I'm fine right here. So a little bit of stubbornness.
Have you ever used this deck? This one came with, I unboxed Mindful Souls. I like to use them. This is just a Mindful Soul deck. And it doesn't really say anything on it. It just says Mindful Souls Tarot deck. And I haven't even looked at the book on it, nothing. I'm just going to try another one and see what happens. You tell me what you think if I pull it up. I'm just cutting it in half. That's all. Oh.
So what do we got there? It looks like the Queen of Cups.
Somebody sitting in a chair with a cup, and it looks like a lady.
Yeah, it looks
Queen,
like
maybe.
Yeah, it looks like the Queen of Cups. Definitely very interesting card. There's a lot of I kind of like the black and white nature of it because it's interesting because it feels like gold pops through on the crown, but there's no gold on the actual card itself. So the first thing I noticed was the crown on her head. But I also noticed she's looking down into the cup. So it's almost like she's pensive and she's thinking. So it's a very thought-provoking card. And so what that suggests to me, especially understanding cups, is that the cups are about emotional, and they're also about flow. So it's
Yeah,
almost
yeah, that's interesting you say flow. I thought that was a broom down on the floor. That's not. I looked at the card closer and it's water with
yeah.
stones. And you said flow, right?
Yeah, so it's about flow, and it's about allowing yourself the time to be able to reflect on where it is that you want to go. So I would say that that is a kind of a form of reflection. But the Queen of Water is actually my card.
Oh,
Yes, I am a Queen of Water.
oh wow.
My age and my sign are both water cards.
Isn't
So
that funny that I picked that one out? Maybe that's yours. It knew it was yours. And I just happened to pick your card. So tell us more about some of the other stuff. I know you've had a lot of different experiences. I think one time you told me about experience that you had up on Signal Hill that was with a cryptid creature
yes, I think we talked about that in
in
episode.
an yeah, in another episode.
Yeah.
Or is there any other like stuff that you want to talk about from your childhood? I know we talked a little bit about it. You said you had a lot of paranormal stuff in your childhood.
Yeah, I had a experience. I think one of my first experiences that I can recall was in a house that we lived in Nebraska. We lived for a couple of years in a small town in Nebraska called Chadron. The house that I particularly lived in was very active, and to the point where we could hear people walking up and down stairs that weren't there anymore. There was always voices upstairs talking, and there was an old guy that used to, and my brother and I were very young. I was 3, he was like 1.5. So we shared a room. And there was an old guy that would come in and tuck us in and just make sure that we were protected, um, which my mom and dad were not really aware of. And we didn't even think anything of it. It was just like, okay, great. Meanwhile, my mom and dad had experiences in their room, which is right across the hall, of a woman like blowing cold air on them and pulling off their blankets and, causing some disturbances. So it's almost like he was there to protect us from her so we wouldn't
Oh,
actually be hurt in any way, shape, or form. Uh,
okay.
and I remember one year, like I wasn't going to bed because I believed in Santa Claus. I was 4.5, and I was like determined to stay up and wait for Santa Claus. And nobody could get me to bed. And we had a room full of people. My dad's family were all there. And all of a sudden, this loud knock came at the door, and you could hear it as clear as day. Everybody in the room stopped. Everybody in the room heard it. And then one of my uncles said, "Oh, I bet that's Santa Claus." And of course, I flew off. I was gone. And then I went to bed. So I didn't know the end of the story until much later. And much later, my mom said that she, like, it wasn't even her, it was my Uncle Don opened the door.
Oh,
Nobody on the porch, and it had just snowed as well. And so
hmm.
there's no footprints on the snow. So there's no footprints on the there's nobody on the porch. Nobody could figure out where this knock came on, but everybody heard it. Nobody knew
Interesting.
where it came
So
from.
your family has experiences too. But do you ever talk to your brother about that now, or does he not want to like embrace it?
You know what? I don't know that he ever even talks about spiritual stuff. So we don't really discuss much. He lives in a very mundane world. He works very, very hard, and he works out in Canmore. So, and he's very busy and has a family. So we don't really get a chance to talk too much.
So when I'm going to pull up Larkin Point here now, the logo.
Mhm.
When I go to the Larkin Point studio, what experience am I going to get when I go there? I've got a photo of your studio here. I'll pull up. Did you want to talk about that?
So when people come in and see me in person, they get a tea leaf reading, as well as a tarot reading. So 60 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on what you choose to get, of basically undivided attention about you. One thing people don't understand about tarot is that it's not necessarily a fortune telling tool. Tarot deals with past, present, and future. So it deals with what happened in the past. Sometimes because that past always impacts your present, right? We always know that, and then the future. It takes a look at where you are now, and then also provides some information in regards to how to prepare for the future. So it's kind of all encompassing. So it's not necessarily a fully, all seeing, all knowing situation. Tea leaf reading, I often call a for like. Usually, we'll say that tea leaf reading is more future facing.
Okay.
Divided into 12 months. We take a look at what's going on. I take a look at the symbology, and then we have some soul work down at the bottom. So what is
for the tea leaf reading, do you have to drink the tea, or like what
yes,
happens with that? How does that work?
you have to drink the tea with the leaves in the tea.
Yeah, and then once you get down to the bottom, you just look and see what position they're in,
Yeah,
and
I flip the cup over, you make a wish, and then I take a look at what the symbols on the leaves are. And then of course using channeled energy with my guides to make sure that I'm getting the information that I need to the individual.
does it matter like what kind of tea you use, or can it be any kind of tea?
It can be any kind of tea.
Okay, cool.
And it can
So
be a couple, like it can be like a few leaves, or it can be a lot of leaves, however you want to drink it.
so
So,
tell us, like when you flip the cup, what kind of stuff do you look for in the relation of the leaves, like in what position they're in?
well, what kind of shapes are they making? Right. So, for example, I had a woman sitting in front of me who I looked over the cup and literally was filled with little fairies.
Oh.
And I was just like, "So you like fairies?" And she goes, "I love my fairies." Like she just totally turned into a kid, right? That was 4 years old playing with fairies. And it's like, but the fairies are hiding things on you. And she's like, "How do you know?" And I could see the fairies doing different things on there. And so it was like, it was just being able to talk to her about, just bringing back her own power in regards to elemental spirits.
Okay.
Because, sometimes, if you let them take over control of your life, that can be chaotic. And sometimes you don't need that much chaos.
So fairies in Newfoundland are not always evil, because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, the Irish fairies are terrible, they're evil," but then I hear about fairy tree circles, which are supposed to be happy places, right? Unless you tell people where the circle is, and then they get mad.
Yeah, I mean, Newfoundland has a very different lore around fairies than, say, central Alberta. Very different ideologies. But you can run into all kinds of fairies. They may not necessarily be fairies either. They could be elves, gnomes, brownies. It's just a lot of times we put them all in the fairy category. So,
Okay, yeah, or elementals, like you said, right? You never know what those are.
exactly. So, and elementals are so much fun to play with. I know that I was doing flower readings. I was learning how to do flower readings in Australia, and I looked at the flowers, and all of a sudden I just saw fairies all over these flowers, and I just went, "Oh, fairies!" And then they just went, poof, and they were gone.
They ran away. They're like, "Hey, she can
Like I
see
was
us."
just in that right zone to see them. And I wouldn't have believed it if, I'm like going, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's just a tall tale." But I actually saw it. Like, I don't know, maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I don't know. I think that they were actually in existence. So
So you were talking about a couple different decks that you're using. I drew up another picture here.
sorry about that.
That's the elves calling. See, we're talking about them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
So which deck do you let them choose? Which deck, or you choose it?
Right. So
Like
you see a
like
setup
if
there that I have. That's a common fare table that I will have set up. So I have casting available. So if I need further clarification on something, I can do some casting. The decks that I have there at this table is the Universal deck, which is the Universal Starseed deck, the really big one. My Faulkner Tarot, and the Byzantine deck. And the Byzantine is based on Orthodox Christian iconography.
okay.
And so, yeah, I get people to sit down and go, okay, which deck are you drawn to? Because then that opens up energy, right? Anything I can do as a reader to open up energy, I will. Because the idea is that I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. Sometimes people don't realize how deep this can go, right?
Well, that's
How
my next question. Like, if you have a future reading for somebody, how deep are you going to let them know about the future?
I
Or
let them know
that
as
might
deep,
change it, right?
yeah, I let them know as deep as I'm getting told,
And
right?
even if it's bad,
Define bad though.
well, the D word,
So death,
right?
is death really bad though?
Well, change of energy, right? It's essentially, or it could be good for somebody in pain, depending on who you're talking to.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, the only time I've actually seen death is in a teacup. I have not actually seen
Oh,
death in tarot. Though
wow.
people will say, I have had people come back to me and say, I predicted death. I don't predict death. What I do is, if I see that people need to wrap up business and need to be able to express what they say or what they need to say, that's generally what comes out. It's like you have some things that you need to prepare for, and you need to be prepared, and you need to make sure you basically have everything out that you need to have out. So any conversations that need to take place, any preparation, you just need to make sure because basically if you see something like death, it's a warning. Inherently, the person already knows it's coming and they haven't done what they need to do to be ready for it.
Okay.
So they have to be prepared. And it's about them. My readings are always about them and where they're at and what they need to do to be able to make sure that they are living the best lives they possibly can.
And that's usually like, do you see that in a scry too? Like when you look at the crystal ball, like,
So,
is there certain things that you need to do to help scry, like a certain meditation that you have to do to get into that mindset?
I generally do a meditation to be able to scry, and usually when I scry, I see natural disasters. So I don't particularly
Oh,
like scrying.
there's a lot of that stuff on the go lately. So,
Yeah, the last one I saw was a tsunami coming
okay.
to Newfoundland. So I'm like, "Mm." But of course, I don't get timing with that or anything. I don't get any sort of, was that past, present, future? I'm guessing I get more future energy with it.
Right.
And it's just like it doesn't hit. It hits a populated area, but not overly populated. And it's
Did you
like,
stay in Newfoundland?
yeah,
Because I know in Bjorn we had a huge tsunami that killed a lot of people in
yeah, that was
Bjorn.
back in the beginning of the 1900s.
It
So
was, yeah.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
in a different area though. So
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, you never know what you're gonna see when you look in. Do you ever use mirrors too, or just the ball?
I use ball water candle.
Oh, you use water too? Okay.
Yeah, if you
Wow.
put it in like a rose bowl or a fish bowl, uh,
Mhm.
and you can scry with that. It basically what you want to do when you're scrying is you want to unfocus your eyes, refocus your eyes, and keep doing that while you're breathing, and eventually images come forward. At least that's my experience.
I've heard some people say that the mirror has to have a certain, was it lead capacity or something behind it, or I don't know that. I'd have to look that up, but
I
I've heard some people talk about it.
Well, I don't know. When I can scry my crystal ball, there's no lead in it, so it's crystal quartz. So, and
Yeah.
then my other one is
No, I'm
selenite.
thinking about the mirror. The mirror. So you
Oh,
like the old-fashioned mirrors, you know?
yeah, I
What's your theory, since we're talking about mirrors, on spirits using that as a portal to go through and communicate,
They usually
or just
show,
to jump
yeah.
through?
I haven't seen any spirit jump through. I have had spirit let me know they're there through a mirror.
Okay, like
So,
let them see.
yeah, like the man in the yellow shirt. I don't know his name. He was just a man in a yellow shirt. He showed up behind me while I was doing dishes. You know, when you get windows and they
Yeah,
kind of act like a mirror. I saw him
yeah.
there. And all summer long, I was working up in Hinton, Alberta. All summer long, he would show himself.
Oh,
And then my mom came to visit me, and then he went away with my mom. So
hmm.
he disappeared and went with my mom's like, now I'm seeing the guy in the yellow shirt. And I'm like, I'm not
Really?
seeing anything. And then we were traveling to interior BC, and we stopped at a location along our way, and he disappeared. on
He
both
just
sides.
disappeared. So
So
he likes to hitch on to people and travel around. I suppose there's a
yeah,
lot of
he likes
spirits
to
like that.
travel around. So
Yeah.
that's the story of the man in the yellow shirt, and he always showed himself either in a mirror or in a window that was acting like a mirror. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Now, I mentioned off air earlier, I've got this box I was going to unbox and open. It's from, I got it in the mail today. My husband went down and got it. It's from mindfulsouls.com. I don't know
Ooh,
if you've ever gotten stuff from them. I really enjoy them. But let's see what we got. You never know what's in it. There's jewelry, all kinds of stuff usually. And he opened the box up. Oh, and just like that, it says, and then on the very top, there's a sticker that says, a wild soul.
yeah.
I am a bit of a wild soul. This one is affirmation for joy. I am grateful for all the wonderful things already I have in my life and those which are yet to come.
Yay.
Each box is a different theme. So this one is about joy. Now I'm wondering what's going to be in it. Apparently, there's all kinds of stuff in it. There's a raw selenite necklace, nature's jasmine cones, a tiger eye bracelet, a coffee sheet mask with vitamin C, a hematite stone that's supposed to be used for healing, first aid kit to clear away negative things, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, orthorocross fossil to aid in reducing tiredness and fatigue. Now, that's definitely something I could use. So I'm holding up, and then I'll turn it around, and then I'll open up a few of these things real quick. That's the mask.
Okay. So does that go on your eyes?
That goes on your face. You peel it off and like stick it on your face, kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So like a face mask.
Face mask, yeah.
Yep, yep.
And then there's jasmine cones
Ooh.
for everybody loves jasmine. And then you get these little bags. And then in each bag, there's something different. Like this one is, oh, that's the necklace. That's nice. It's a selenite necklace.
Oh, that's beautiful. Selenite is great because selenite, it's just like you can use it for any type of clearing and it's really neutral. So I have a selenite ball that I love using.
Yeah, that's all kinds of cool stuff in this. So there's that. And then there's 3 more bags. So you just open it up. And, ooh. That's the, whoops, over here.
Ooh, that's the tiger eyes.
Yeah, that's the bracelet.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 more stones we mentioned. I love unboxing stuff. I don't know what you're going to get. That's the other rock that we were talking about.
That's the hematite. So hematite I can't touch.
Why not?
I can't touch it because it just sends electrical shocks all over my body and I can't handle it.
Ooh, it says you're supposed to, was it keep it in? It's supposed to linked with its ability to absorb any toxic emotions holding you back from your natural state of joy and vitality. It's a root chakra.
Which is great for those who can handle it.
The other one is a fossil, which, you know what? It looks like a guitar pick. You could literally use this as a guitar pick, but it's believed to contain supernatural and physical healing powers, aid in reducing tiredness and fatigue. Well, I think I'll stick that one under my pillow tonight. But first, I always put it all in salt overnight, Jessica. I take it all and put it all in salt, and then rinse it in water in the morning and throw the salt away. Have you ever talked to people about doing stuff like that?
So you're talking about cleansing items. Yes. Most common way of doing it is full moon light. Salt is another one. You have to be careful about the rock or the element that you're putting it with. You do not want to put copper with salt. That doesn't work very well. Just like you don't want to necessarily put calcite with water. That doesn't, or selenite with water. That doesn't work very well. So there's a variety of different ways that you can cleanse things.
Okay.
I find that the easiest way for me is just putting everything out for the full moon and letting full moon energy.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. Now, what about if, we're in a place here that's right foggy in Newfoundland and Labrador. If it's foggy out and it's a full moon, can you still do that?
Yep, because it's still a full moon energy. You're still going to have the same energies. You're still going to have really busy hospitals. You're still going to have lots of births. You're still going to,
I can attest to the hospital bit. That's truth.
right? Right? Oh, it's a full moon. Crazies are out tonight, right?
Oh yeah, the emergency room or the operation room goes nuts on a full moon.
Right. So, I mean, and it just seems to be that that's the way it happens. So, yeah, the full moon energy is still there.
So do you have any other ideas on how to cleanse your crystals and stuff? I know you'd mentioned put them in the full moon.
Right. So that's energy. So you can do a type of water. You can do sacred water. You can use holy water from the Catholic Church if you believe that in that type thing. There's also raindrop water, and there's other holistic waters, rainbow water, that you can use for that.
What happens if you don't recharge them? If you just leave them out all the time and
They get drained. Eventually,
okay.
they're not as effective and they get drained. I use smudging a lot, so I'll smoke mine because I don't want to wait for a moon. And honestly, I always forget when it is. So I'm not very good at remembering calendar stuff.
So that's a good idea. You can smudge them. Okay. And you just use a bit of sage for that?
Yep. Or Palo Santo or
Okay.
whatever sacred herb that you want to be able to use that honors you and honors your practice.
Okay. Now you'd mentioned stuff about other herbs. I haven't worked much with other herbs. Do you use other herbs for like sage or doing other different things?
Yeah, there's sweetgrass, there's sage, there's Palo Santo, there's frankincense, mugwort. Well, you can use mugwort as well. So it's just depending on what it is that you want to do. I know that I have a sage stick wrapped with mugwort that I'm going to be opening up soon because that opens up your psychic ability even more. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's all about being open and being able to do readings, right? So
Did you want to talk a little bit about some other things that you've done in relation to? I know you're clairaudient and you're clairvoyant. I mean, we've had a couple different episodes. You can go back and listen to Jessica and where she talks with the Torvay History House and Museum when she was with the BOG team there and did see spirit and felt it and talked to it with her dowsing rods and. Is there other things that you want to talk about that you've seen or heard?
What else have I seen and heard? I think probably one of the weirdest experiences I had was when I was in a house in Calgary where I had water fall out of the ceiling.
Ooh.
Randomly. Just I was sitting at a desk like this and I was just sitting there and I stepped away and then all of a sudden it was just a big sploosh of water that and I was working at a computer desk, so it hit my computer. And when I pulled back the ceiling panels, all I could see was the wood floor from upstairs. There was nothing there. There was no pipes. And the wood panels.
That's weird.
Yeah, the wood floor that we had was right in front of the front door. So there was no water. I was like, well, maybe the bathroom leaked or there was no water anywhere. There was no water to be found that could be a source of like a bucket of water being dumped on me.
What's your take on people saying that that's like ectoplasm or something from a spirit that's left behind?
Well, it was water. So I don't know.
Was the water up swimming? Was the ghost up swimming?
Plasmic charge or energy. It was water. And I mean, it was interesting because when I did the history of the house, I found out there was a house fire.
Oh.
And then I had a house fire in that house myself. So I don't know if it was a possible time portal opening where from like the fighting of the fire of the house, if the water came in and
could it have been a precog, Jessica? Like the fire that you had in the house, was it in that area later?
It was in close to that area. It was in the net area that we had off to the side. But yeah, it was in the same
yeah. Maybe it was like a little precog thing telling you, or a time slip. Who knows, right?
Yeah, it was very possible because it happened about 2 years before the actual fire happened. So
okay. Have you had any other precog stuff happen?
I saw another fire when I was on the LRT in Calgary. There was a building that
Right?
caught fire, condos right beside the LRT line, and I was riding the LRT and freaking out, and the people around me were wondering why I was freaking out because I was like, "Oh my God, there's a fire! There's a fire! Does anybody see that fire?"
Right?
And nobody was responding, and they're all looking at me and backing up and going, "You're weird."
They didn't understand. Yeah.
And they didn't
And there's
understand. And so then all of a sudden there was no fire. So I went from being like, there's a fire in that building to there's no fire. And then by 3 o'clock that afternoon, there had been a full 4 alarm fire at that location.
oh my gosh.
And I was watching it on TV.
Makes you wonder. I mean, did you get any weird precogs about what happened in Newfoundland out in with all the wildfires we've been having?
No, no, but I do know by looking at, I just know this because I've worked with, have a little bit of knowledge of forestry and how it works. There's a lot of deadfall, and there's a lot of deadfall in a lot of Canada's forests, and we have not done a very good job of allowing nature to take its course. So we're in for a few years of hot fires just by being aware of nature and how fires work and to clean up all that mess.
Yeah,
It's
that's a lot of work there. Unfortunately, it's going to be another dry. I know we say dry, even though it was raining out there, but it doesn't seem to be as much rainfall than
For Newfoundland, it's dry. For Alberta, this would be very wet.
right.
Yeah.
So tell me more about some of the clairaudient things that you've had. I know you talked about the man in the yellow
So,
shirt and stuff like that, and when
yeah,
you were
so
younger.
yeah, that's clairvoyance and clairsentience. So clairsentience is clear knowing, clairvoyance is clear seeing, clairaudient is clear hearing.
Audience hearing,
Right.
yeah.
And so I can remember I didn't listen. I heard this voice say, turn left.
Ooh.
And I was like, who the hell are you? No, I want to get home fast. I'm turning right. I turned right. I ended up in an accident.
Oh no.
This was probably, I was like 21, 2021. I was fairly young. I didn't
Was
want
that
to,
before you started listening to what they say?
it certainly brought me into attention to start listening to
I
what
was
they,
just gonna say that. Or did that event force
it
you
kind
or
of
kind
triggered
of
that whole entire
okay.
like, yeah, start listening to what they say. So every now and then I'll get a random, very clear, and it's a very clear masculine voice, and it speaks in this ear, and it speaks to me on the inside of my ear, not the outside. And when that voice speaks, I know I have to listen.
Now that's your spirit guide talking, and it's a man?
Yep.
Yeah. Who do you think that is? And you're somebody from your
It,
family?
nope. This is no relation to me. This is a spirit guide that I came into the world with and just is always with me.
So he just kind of hangs out. He didn't like attach from somewhere or he's just been there. Yeah.
He's just always been there. And so I always listen to him. And
So can your spirit guides come from like is it assigned to you at birth like some angel or do you think that it could just comes to you at different points in your life and hangs out with you? Or is it only for people who really believe in it?
I think it's both. And I don't know that you have to believe in it to have the experiences happen. I mean, people talk about miracles every day. You hear about the person
True.
in the car accident that should have been severely injured, but came out of it with no scratch on them, or ended up getting scratched as they were crawling out of the vehicle because
Yeah.
they stepped on the glass the wrong way, right? You hear of those types of situations happen on a very regular basis.
Or like Final Destination.
Right. And so it's just like there's way too many of those experiences just within the mundane world with people who don't necessarily believe in spirit guides. And I do. And so people will say, well, they're angels. And I'm like, well, angels are part of it. I do believe there's elementals, humanistic form, spirit guides. You can even have potentially almost alien. You can have angels, which I don't know really the difference between angel and alien, when you dig down into it and look at kind of how they're represented, very equally could be one and the same. So yeah, there's a lot, there's definitely a lot to them. I have a chorus. I know that there's a chorus. when I do my readings, consisting of 3 or 4 of them. And they're very good at showing me pictures and
Mhm.
telling me information. So, which
So for the religion of tarot, so there's a course. When you say a course, do you mean they're singing or there's just a certain amount of them?
well, they all talk at the same time in unison. They almost act as
Oh,
one.
okay.
And you know those theater games where you have people who are doing a scene and they all have to say the same thing at the same
Yes.
time? That's
Yes.
kind of what it sounds like.
Okay. All
A
right.
little faster though. It's not as dragged out.
So now for the religion of tarot, for your thesis, what
Mhm.
is the main thing that you want to get across to people about the religion of tarot? What's the main thing that you want people to know about or message?
Messages is that religion is more than just Christianity. I think if there was a takeaway to be like, oh well, no, it's not religion. Religion is a word that's been almost obstructed by intellectual design in a way. The original word was meant to bind yourself to your beliefs. That was the Latin version and kind of what it meant. So that religion can look in a variety of different ways. So and people need to open their minds to the possibility that there's more than one way to view religion. And this is
And
just
when you say that, and I think about the Masonic because it's just got the G, and the G is one all-seeing being, or it doesn't have to be a one all-seeing being. It could be whatever the heck you believe in.
mhm.
Is right? So when that's what I think about what you just said. That's exactly right. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be one particular, you know, religion, shall we say.
Yeah, I would say that this is a hot topic in tarot communities. A lot of people are very triggered by the term religion. And part of that has to do with a lot of tragic and unfortunately traumatic events that have occurred in different people's lives. So religion can be synonymous to a triggering event for people as well. My
Especially here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we don't wanna get into that,
Yeah,
but unfortunately, that has happened here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
and it could be a variety of different reasons. So I honor that and just say, look, like it's not meant to be triggering. It's meant to be investigative. It's meant to push the boundaries and to say, hey, there is more to this world than just one way of looking at it. And so I did that with my thesis, the religion of tarot. So we looked at the vernacular, or also known as lived religion, of individuals who practice tarot daily, and
And
have
it
it.
all goes back to the energies, right? No matter what you're looking at, it's all about the energy.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it
So,
is. Yes.
yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people, they for different other aspects, like, do you use Reiki also?
I don't use Reiki, mainly because I have a pretty good balance within myself. I learned long ago to use protection in a rainbow format. And so I don't tend to get a lot of attachments. And when I do get an attachment, I dissolve, not cut. And I tend to just kind of keep using my rainbow egg as
I've
my
got my rainbow here with my puffin and my
yay.
crystals. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll hold
Yeah,
it up a
I
little
can.
bit. Everybody got their own little weirdness that they use, but hey, whatever works for you, right?
Exactly, exactly. And the reason why I use rainbow is because when you're dealing with bright light, you can attract everything and anything because the brighter your light, of course, the more attraction you are. And so since I've
Mm.
been doing like rainbow energy protection, it's almost like prism light. I just cover myself in prism light. I have had less hitchhikers, less uninvited guests, less issues in dealing with spirits. So it works for me because otherwise I could literally be up all night just talking to spirit and fae and elementals, and it's just like that's exhausting. I still have to live a mundane life. I still am an individual, living this world, and I have to be able to function.
Right. So do you recommend any type of like ritual that you do every day? I know every night some people, pray before they go to bed, or, use their sage and whatnot. And what what do you recommend?
I keep mine really simple. I just give thanks for what I have. So gratitude. I just grateful for the day, even though it's a rough day. Grateful for my partner, for everything he does, and grateful for everything that I have. I have a roof over my head. I have food in my fridge, and sometimes that's all I can think about being thankful for, because the days can be kind of rough. And then when I have better days, there's more added to the list. But those are the two consistents that I give gratitude for every day and thankful for.
Yeah, gratitude is a big one, definitely. Now I'm going to throw up on the stage Larkin Point so people can find you.
Yeah, I'm at Lock and Point on Facebook. You can certainly reach out and message me there. I do virtual readings as well as in-person readings. So if you find yourself in St. John's, Newfoundland, I am here. If you want to just reach out and do one virtually, I can do that as well.
Now, this is our link tree. If you go there, the Paranormal NL podcast link tree and the BOG team is there. I'm going to scroll down. You probably might find it hard to read, but at the very bottom down here, you're going to see Larkin Point, and you just click on Larkin Point, and that'll take you right to Jessica's page. And if you want to, you can also check out some of the other BOG team stuff on UPRN and of our merch and all that fun stuff. But Jessica, where else can people find you, and how do they reach out to you and get
So
to you?
they can email me at larkinpoint@gmail.com, and that's larkinpoint, all one word. Or on Facebook. I find those are the easiest way for people to see me. And I'm working on getting a webpage going. So once I have that, you'll be able to find me on my webpage too.
Fun stuff. Well, is there anything else that you want to get out there to the general public, or anything that you want to say to your fans before we peace out?
No, just thank you for your trust in me for those who have had a reading with me. I'm always honored, as I do believe that there is a sacredness to the information that's shared through the process of tarot. And I do feel as though that needs to be honored with people. And sometimes I think that in this world, we forget about the honoring that's required, because that can be really deep, soulful stuff. And because we get behind the mask, we get to see people in a way that other people may not. And so I just want to acknowledge and give my gratitude to those individuals who have trusted me with that.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciated having you on and talk about the religion of tarot and everything about, the paranormal that we discussed. Your wealth of knowledge about the paranormal and tarot and the religion of tarot. And you're welcome back again anytime.
Okay.
So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And if you have any comments, put them down there, because we're going to do a live stream with this episode, and it's going to be a live chat watch party, so you can participate and ask Jessica any questions that you have. And if she's in the chat there, she can answer them at that time, or I can jump in and help out and help answer some of the questions. But thank you again for being on, Jessica.
You want to just do a quick closing of our circle that we
Yes,
opened?
I wanted to ask you to do that too before we go.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and close the circle and say thank you for Spirit coming through, and for the messages that were received today and shared with everyone. And thank you for their attention and time, and gratitude to everyone who shared a little piece of themselves. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much. So we're going to leave you with a little bit of BOG team music here before we go. And peace out. And thank you again, everybody. And take care.